a playlist original.
All right, hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of Back to the Blockbuster with your host, Gason Jackson. Another episode of Merry Bingemas. How's it going, buddy?
It's going good. Seeing lots of each other today. It's awesome getting a lot of Back to the Blockbuster episodes filmed together, and it's nice to do another more conventional Christmas movie this time around, and one that I had not seen in a while. So it's good to be talking about Home Alone today. How was your viewing of this movie?
Yeah, it was good. I had planned on watching it by myself, but then I told you last Friday we went to that 12 bars of Christmas thing, and we went to my buddy Justin's house, and we had time before we had to go to the pub crawl, and he was like, well, let's just watch it now. And it was just like 8 of us that sat down and watched it. We actually watched both of them. We watched Home Alone and Home Alone 2 because we had time for both before going, and it was actually fun because like, we were watching it like we were children again. Like even though we're all like everyone's in their like late 20s to like late 30s, so like, we were still watching it like kids. And I think that's just kind of like the power of that movie, is that it kind of brings out this kind of childlike.
Definitely, it had a similar impact. Yeah. So let me ask you this: when you're watching movies with that many people, are you watching, or is it constant chatter? Are you like how is that viewing experience? Are you guys getting the watch done, or
so it starts off as a solid watch. Everyone's watching it, and then you're kind of
awkward with 8 people sitting in silence.
Yeah, and then you're kind of referencing what's going on the screen, and of course, some people are getting more distracted than others. They're still watching it, but you're still having conversations with amongst each other. Right. I think myself and 3 other people were really watching it and then kind of talking amongst ourselves about the movie. But it is hard to watch a movie with that many people.
I mean,
unless it seems like it'd be like a really fun time, but like
it's good. I like watching comedies with a bunch of friends because you're not really that invested if you're laughing, and then you can have a throwaway side conversation. But if you're watching something, I guess this wouldn't really be something you need to be too invested in. But I wouldn't bother watching like something I was interested in analyzing and actually watching with that many people. This would be passable though, for sure. And it's good Christmas humor. Yeah.
Right. And this is actually the earliest I really watch it. I usually watch it on Christmas Day.
Oh yeah. Okay.
It's like an early morning, like one of the first things I watch on Christmas Day. So this was different. I still might watch it on Christmas Day, who knows? But this is the earliest I've watched it in a very long time.
I don't know what I'm gonna watch on Christmas Day this year. Last year it was Cocktail with my dad. We watched Tom Cruise.
You watched
first time ever, and I actually liked it. It's got like a 12 Metascore. That movie is much better.
It got ratchet reviews, but
I don't know why.
It made a lot of money, but
that's good. But anyway, that was what I watched.
That's such a random movie to watch on Christmas Day.
And the year prior was The Green Knight, which takes place on Christmas Day. Besides not being a Christmas movie at all.
That's so funny. How did Cocktail even come up?
Because Dad just had brought it up to me a few times. This is one of those movies from back in the day that he likes, that he wanted me to see, and the time was right. It was Christmas. We'd finished opening presents. We'd had breakfast and had nothing better to do while Mom was cooking the Christmas turkey, because that's something she does alone. So that's how we spent the afternoon together, and I quite enjoyed it. I don't think I ever would have watched it otherwise, because I looked kind of snobby. I looked at it as like 12 Metascore. Like, obviously this is not worth touching, but even though it's Tom Cruise, early pre-Top Gun Tom Cruise, if I'm not mistaken. And I thought it was actually quite charming, funny, good little story. But anyway, besides the point, I'm not sure what I'll watch on Christmas Day this year, but I'll watch something. Just not sure what yet. Maybe Die Hard, because I haven't seen that yet.
Oh, that's a good one.
Year. Maybe
I'll try to see the Christmas spirit in Lethal Weapon. I know I brought that up. I was like, I don't see it the way other people do.
Yeah. Cam just watched that with his mom. He was saying,
maybe I'll try. I'll try this year. But we covered Home Alone 2 last year, or you didn't, but actually JC was actually on. We recorded an episode earlier with Merc with the Movies, and he was actually on that episode when we covered Home Alone 2 Lost in New York, because it had a milestone anniversary last year. And then you asked if I had ever talked about Home Alone on the show, and I have never actually done Home Alone, so this is the perfect time to do it, because it is the quintessential Christmas movie for a lot of people. And this is going to be silly. We all know that you know what Home Alone is, but just in case you don't, it's a Christmas comedy directed by Chris Columbus and written and produced by John Hughes. It's the first film in the Home Alone franchise, and it stars Macaulay Culkin, Joe Pesci, Daniel Stern, John Hurd, and Catherine O'Hara. In the film, Culkin plays Kevin McCallister, a boy who defends his suburban Chicago home from a home invasion by a pair of robbers after his family accidentally leaves him behind on their Christmas vacation to Paris.
Are you here all by yourself? I'm 8 years old. You think I'd be here alone? I don't think so.
What would you do if your parents accidentally left you home alone? Well, how about shopping? Shaving?
Crowbars up.
This is my house. I have to defend it.
And good old-fashioned crime fighting.
Yes.
Home Alone, the new comedy by John Hughes, directed by Chris Columbus, rated PG. Starts Friday at theaters everywhere.
When Home Alone came out, it was a huge financial success. It grossed $476.7 million worldwide.
Whoa.
And it becoming the highest grossing live action comedy until the release of The Hangover Part 2 in 2011. It was also the second highest grossing film of 1990 behind Ghosts, and it was nominated for the Golden Globe Award for Best Motion Picture, Musical, or Comedy. And Macaulay Culkin was nominated for Best Actor in a Motion Picture, Musical, or Comedy as well.
Not bad for a 9-year-old.
Not bad at all. And it also was nominated for an Academy Award for Best Original Score for John Williams and Best Original Song for Somewhere in My Memory. Home Alone has since been considered one of the best Christmas films ever made. So when did you first see Home Alone?
Oh, much too young to really remember. I grew up watching this movie. It was always on around Christmas time, even though it had been a long time since I'd last visited it. I don't even know if I've really watched this movie since really becoming like a cinephile, if you will. But I'd seen it somewhere over the years, like fairly recently, maybe last as like an early teenager. But no, it had been a significant amount of time. But I found I remembered most of this movie, if not the order of the sequences. I still remembered everything.
Yeah.
But yeah, I grew up watching this. This was always on. I was not around when this came out in 1990, but it was still very relevant in my youth. But what about you? I know you were very young when this came out. Was it big? Obviously, it was huge.
It was huge when I was a kid.
Yeah.
And my mom had, even though I was watching horror movies around this time too, but like my mom had a real conflict about me seeing it because I saw it multiple times. We convinced her to, take me to go see it, my friends to go see it with us multiple times. It was that kind of movie for us when we were kids.
Right.
But
it's PG.
It's PG, but at the time when it came out, it got a lot of flack for how violent it was and how a child, and especially having a child be the one that's causing said violence. But looking at it as an adult, like all the violence is so cartoony that you can't even take it seriously. But it was one of those things where like my mom told me that a lot of the parents at that time were like, should we let our kids watch this? Is it something that they should or should not be watching? But it was a huge movie for me when I was a kid. I watched it a lot when it came out on VHS, and then of course in the years since. And it is my favorite Christmas movie. I think I can say that easily out of all the ones that are out there. And I know there's some big ones like Christmas Vacation and Elf, and I'll even say Love Actually and all that stuff. But like, but this is the one that. And oddly enough, I mean, I think even though I think Home Alone 2 feels like more Christmassy than this one because of the New York setting and all that, that feels much more Christmas. There's nothing. Christmas is not complete without Home Alone.
I know it feels that way. I think I'll start watching this more regularly after having seen it this year because it was very charming. Got me in the spirit for sure. I mean, it's still. It was up until very recently snowy over here, but we just got a bunch of rain and it was 15 degrees Celsius. Ooh. So that is quite warm for December.
Okay.
So all our snow was gone, but like in the meantime, like while I was watching this, it felt I had my Christmas tree up the day I was watching this, a little late. I'd like to have had it up earlier. But I was very much in the spirit after watching it. And I was like, oh, that feels nice. This feels like a good Kickstarter for me because I enjoy my Christmas season in small bursts.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, I like, there's a certain, like we do those reels and stuff together. There's a certain time when like you want this stuff to happen, like when it's the music, the movies, the decorating.
Right.
And, but yeah, I can see like Home Alone never fails to get me in the Christmas mood. Even though when as the movie starts, the McCallister family, they're not the nicest bunch, at least not to Kevin.
Not to Kevin, certainly no.
And like when I was watching it with my buddies, I was like, dude, like they're like, no, they're not a great family. I don't know. they are like really. I understand why he's kind of like the way he is. I mean, he got a lot of, of course he's little and he's young and they're picking on him because of that. But like, I don't know, like it's the family dynamics in Home Alone are like really interesting because it's like, and also we don't meet them in the movie at all, but it doesn't I don't think Kevin has friends that we know of. So like, it's just like, there's no real, all his interactions are just with his family and adults. And they're all just kind of really awful to him. I know that was the vibe I got watching it this time. I was like, they're just really not nice to him. He is very precocious and kind of rude himself, but he learned it from somewhere. It seemed like he learned it from them.
Yeah, he's not your average typical kid by any means.
Yeah. What did you think of their family dynamics? So like in the whole like setup, kind of chaos of like the opening of the movie and all that.
I think it adds a lot of charm to the movie and sets up Kevin's predicament quite well. I can't say I relate to the family dynamics in this, but I come from a small family, but extended family. When we're talking about aunts, uncles, and cousins, like are depicted in the earlier parts of this movies, I also skew younger. I'm one of the younger, so growing up around having a lot of family over at Christmas, I could kind of relate to Kevin being the younger cousin / child of a bigger family.
Yeah.
So that part is always like, it puts me back in that feeling growing up. And I guess it was technically early 2000s when I was a child around Christmas time, but I could relate a little bit to Home Alone in that sense. That's about where the relation ends, but I think it's done fun. It felt more of its time than you would see these days. I feel like you wouldn't get this sort of family dynamic depiction in anything in the last few years, but it felt like right at home in the 90s. I don't know if I'm if you
no, I think you're right.
Or...
I think you're right, because I think that like it would come off from today's audiences as more harsh. The way that they're interacting with each other, like it doesn't feel like loving, and
right, like child protection
like,
services would be called.
CPS.
If your neighbors
like,
acted like this,
like it's interesting because like my family, we razz each other, so like I'm kind of, there is some of that in there too.
Okay,
but some of it in this movie felt like more direct and just really mean. Like I just think it's funny that they're just gonna like. I would be upset with too if I was being purposely told I wanted to have to sleep with like one of my relatives who knowingly pees the bed. Like I had like you're gonna make me sleep with him, and that's not fair. Or if like one of my older relatives like ate all the cheese pizza, and like I'm the one that clearly cheese pizza is my favorite,
right?
And Buzz is an asshole, and
Buzz is an asshole. Yeah,
fucking jams it down his throat and like knows that it's gonna piss Kevin off. But then, like, you have like, was it his uncle? Is like Frank, right? Like when all that chaos happens after like he gets mad about the cheese pizza and he like pushes Buzz, and then like the soda and stuff spills, and the fact that he just blatantly just says like, "Look what you did, you little jerk!" Like it seems like it's too far, a little bit. But yeah, it just makes it funny that like it turns into this like loving thing later once they realize they've left him at the house by himself.
It's kind of heartwarming, so you don't know what you got till it's gone. And clearly this family needed to realize what it was missing in order to come together again, which I thought was a very nice theme, and just something about like John Hughes writing that is so timeless and so universal that no matter who or what your family circumstances are, you could sort of like get behind what you're seeing in this movie. And I think that Chris Columbus directing, John Hughes writing combo is something I would have loved to see more from. Like they work so well together. Of course, we just covered another Chris Columbus project with Gremlins.
Oh, Gremlins, yeah,
which was cool. I think he's kind of like a sneaky Christmas filmmaker.
Yeah.
Even like the first Harry Potter, right?
Takes place that feels. He gets like the unconventional one, and then like the one everyone talks about.
Yeah.
What's your theory on what the McCallisters do for a living? Because they seem to have like an influx of money.
It's not really explicitly mentioned, is it? Because
no, it isn't. There's a lot of internet theories where like they said the dad's like in the mob. Like there's like it gets like really funny where like some people are like, no, I think the dad might be a day trader and like all that.
That works.
And but we don't really know what like to fund like, because like it's the brother that's like taking care of like the main trip to France, I believe. But like it's
right.
Like, but it's to house that many relatives in the house like that, and take them all on that. I mean, it's expensive. It's not.
I know there's been people on the internet that have broken down the finances of like just the cost of that house in 1990, the cost of the trip and all the plane tickets for the family to Paris and all that. I know it's been done, but I've never heard concretely what they think. I think day trader is a good guess, but I think if he was, he'd probably live closer to the East Coast because it takes place in Chicago.
Yeah.
What's the industry in Chicago known for? Automotive?
I don't really know. Point, look it up.
I'm not really sure.
I think it might be right, actually. The honest trailer for this movie is so hilarious because they do you know Screen Junkies? Like they make fun of like they create fake movie trailers where they make fun of
Heard
The
of them,
movies.
yeah. I don't know if I've seen any.
And I just love at the beginning of the honest trailer for this one, they just say like, "Welcome to the whitest part of Chicago," because it's like very like it's very Caucasian,
That's
very
a great
Caucasian
point.
in this.
Yeah.
But yeah, you don't really get like I always like as I got older, I was like, what the hell did they do for a living to fund like a trip like that? Because I've never with my family would have never thought of going to Paris for Christmas.
Right.
Like that never would have come up in our family at all. Like
No,
it's always been
I've
like
never
a local thing. Or occasionally you go out of state to go maybe visit another family member, but never like
I've never
take a
spent a
big
Christmas
family trip.
abroad. Yeah, I've never been into that. I don't think I'll even do that as like going like once I have my own like family. I like being home for the holidays.
Yeah. I would never think to do that. And the fact that they do it twice.
That's right.
It's like it's ridiculous.
What's the premise of the second one? They go to New York and Kevin just gets lost while his family is still in New York.
So like they're going to
different flight, right?
They're going to different flight, and he thinks that he's following his dad because he's like trying to fix something in his bag, and then he runs after who he thinks is his dad from behind.
Yeah,
and then,
I recall that now.
And I think they're going to Florida this time. I think they were more sensible in part two. and then he ends up going to New York, and then they're like, "Fuck, how do
worst
I do this
parents ever,
ever."
And of course, the Wet Bandits are there in New York too. What are the odds?
Of course. Yeah. Home Alone 2 is the same movie, just on a larger scale.
Yeah,
like it has the same beats. Like he meets a kind homeless stranger. Like there's a lot.
The bird lady,
the bird lady in part 2, and then I'm assuming the old guy is maybe he's not homeless. Was he homeless
in part Home Alone? No, I don't think so. He's like the neighbor right next door. But
okay,
I remember growing up though thinking that he was like because he's so scary as a child, right?
He scared me as a child. Yeah.
Honestly, great filmmaking techniques employed in this movie, like the camera angles and the lenses that are used to depict like adults versus Kevin. Like I think they frame and actually I didn't know this until this was mentioned in a video I was watching from Joe Blow about Home Alone, and they sort of quip on how the guy who plays Old Man Marley is the guy that sells the car to Arnie and Christine. I never picked up on that, which is kind of hilarious. Yeah. But he's a very imposing physical presence in Home Alone until you realize he's just a nice, like mild-mannered guy next door. But to any kid, he'd be scary.
He'd be kind of scary. And I always wondered that, like, because you know how Kevin has, like, when he's left home alone, he has his imagination makes like the whole furnace thing more scary than it is. Right. I always wondered if his imagination made Old Man Marley more scary. Like maybe he never was scary to Kevin. Like the whole time when he's in the store and he like steals a toothbrush because he like the old man slams his hand on the counter.
Right.
I was like, I wonder if that was just all like. But I was wondering, like, is that all in Kevin's head? If he's like building it up as like a scarier thing than it actually is? And
there's that scene early when the kids are talking about the theory of him being like a serial killer that got away with it. I think that helps, like, make Kevin afraid of him. But definitely his childlike naivete, not really knowing, that he's just letting his imagination run wild, like with the furnace. I think is a good example too.
I also love that Kieran Culkin is Fuller, the relative that pees in the bed, that from drinking all the Pepsi.
That's his brother.
That's his brother, and I think it's funny that they don't.
Never knew that.
Yeah, that's funny that they don't make Fuller his brother. They make him like a cousin or something
what
like
the
that
heck?
in the movie.
That's so cool.
But yeah, it's Kieran Culkin, just scarfing down Pepsi, getting ready to pee on his brother.
That is so funny because I don't find it looks like Macaulay Culkin. Like I thought I would notice that.
Yeah, they look more alike now, I think, as like men, but like I guess
definitely,
for sure. And this is also, I think it's funny too for Joe Pesci. He in the same year that this came out, he also did Goodfellas. So like the two very polar opposite movies, and I think it's just funny too because they said while they were making it, which is why he does that whole fredger that stuff, because he would actually curse. And they're like, "Hey, this is a kids movie. You can't curse." He was like, "Well, what can I do?" So like, he just came up with that instead of like
gibberish,
saying,
sort of swearing.
Yeah. But yeah, Joe Pesci and Daniel Stern are a great pair in this. I love how it just starts off with Joe Pesci pretending to be like, well, who's he pretending like a cop that's someone that's like surveying like the houses or whatever.
It's so ridiculous.
It doesn't happen.
Like, No, so yeah, we're just making sure, because break-ins are common in the area this time of year, that you guys have all your, safety
Yeah,
plan in place. It's like no
yeah.
officers wasting their time doing that. Or can you not see right through that? But it's funny. Like, I'm sure kids wouldn't think anything twice about it.
But I guess it's 1990. Like,
Mm,
I don't know if things were different in
Perhaps.
1990.
Yeah.
I do love that he can't, like, it takes a while for him to get anyone's attention in the house. Like, when he's
Yeah.
trying to, like, talk to anybody. Like,
Do you
there's
live
that one.
here?
Do
Are
you
your
live here?
parents home?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then when he's trying to talk to the two relatives, he's like, you guys went on vacation? And they're just staring up at him, like, not talking to him at all.
Right.
And there's that one moment where Kevin runs to the house and he's like trying to talk to him. He's just yelling like pizza, pizza, and like it just runs right by him. Yeah, it's really funny stuff from all of them.
Yeah.
I love like the family stuff, even though it is kind of like I poke fun at it being like kind of mean. I do love that it kind of sets up the kind of hustle and bustle of what that Christmas can be like during that time. And like it's especially if you have that many relatives staying at your house. I don't mind visiting relatives like that, and I don't mind them visiting me like that. But
I have a host
overnight
I like
an overnighter like that. Oh man, that's
Yeah.
way too many many
Also,
relatives in my house.
I feel one of the more unrealistic parts towards the beginning is when Kevin gets banished to like the attic, like his room. That is such a sweet pad for a kid.
Yeah,
like that
for a
attic
kid.
bedroom is so sick. I'm like, I'd happily spend all my time up there. Like I'd be going up there anyway. You wouldn't have to punish me to get me up there. But that was kind of funny. I think that conversation too with his mom when he is getting punished, like after dinner, after the pizza fiasco, when she's sending him up there and he wishes that he never had a family and never sees him again. Like,
oh, she says like say it again and maybe it'll happen.
Yeah, that is such a. It's like sweet because you can tell the lesson that she's trying to instill in him, and he just isn't picking up on it. Like it's a sweet mother son moment, even though it's sort of like snotty from his.
I think she says something along the lines like you'd be pretty upset if that happened, and he said like no I won't, and then she's like all right fine, like and I'm glad that you picked up on that because sometimes I think it can be read as like what parent would say that to a kid, like all right say it again and like maybe it'll happen, but she is trying to teach him some kind of lesson in that, but he's so like
and you get why he's so pissed and like why he feels like he's like just the runt of the litter and why he's so upset with his family. I think that's a great job with the writing too, is like you're getting both sides of the coin here, right? Which it's not just skewed one or the other.
Yeah, and also you're learning pretty early on. I mean, like he's good throughout the whole movie, but Macaulay Culkin at that time was just a natural. Like he is because some kids like that when they're that age in movies like this, you're just like it's not cute, it's annoying, and like precocious kids in movies like this are always frustrating sometimes. Yeah, but he had really great comic timing, and it seemed like, and that seemed like something that wasn't trained. It just seemed like that was just naturally like who he was as a kid, and was able to convey that like on screen really well.
John Hughes, I'd put him up there. Like I think Scott Derrickson has that touch too that John Hughes has with working with a younger cast, and just part of it probably casting the right people in like the children in that role, but also just getting good performances out of them. They're both really good directors that have a good track record with working with younger folks. But yeah, Macaulay Culkin I don't know I know this movie comes out. When does it release? In December? November 16th,
November
right?
1990. Yeah.
So depending on when this movie presumably filmed in 1989 at some point, maybe even early 1990. So that would put Macaulay Culkin at, depending on when, not around 9 years old at filming, which is quite impressive. Right. Yeah, small 9-year-old. I wouldn't.
Small very small 9-year-old.
Yeah. Not eating enough cheese pizza, that's for sure.
Yeah, not at all.
Yeah,
they keep stealing it from him, man.
That's right. Yeah.
And he was in Uncle Buck. That's how John Hughes knew of Macaulay Culkin, and he had done that movie with John Candy.
Yeah. I didn't know that Macaulay Culkin was in that.
And I guess he suggested to Chris Columbus, like, he should be the lead. But they said Christopher Columbus met with 200 other kids because he thought it was his directorial duty to like look at other kids. They said John Mulaney was one of them. He was asked to audition for the role of Kevin after being scouted in a children's sketch comedy group, but his parents refused the opportunity. And then Columbus finally met with Culkin and agreed he was the right choice for the role. And then for Robert De Niro and John Lovitz turned down the role of Harry that Joe Pesci later accepted. And the role of Uncle Frank was written for Kelsey Grammer, but was given to Gary Bamman when Grammer was unavailable to do the movie.
Kelsey Grammer. Why is that not who I'm thinking? I thought Kelsey Grammer was a female.
It's like Frasier. It's like Frasier and like.
How do you spell Kelsey? I gotta look that up. Oh, hey, look at that. Comes right up. Oh, from Cheers as well.
Yeah, Cheers.
I thought Kelsey Grammer was like a female country singer. I'm wrong.
I think that's Kelsey. Her name. I know you're talking about the blonde. Yeah.
I thought there was another one.
I think you have Kelsey. Is that Kelsey Ballerini, which is like
there is a Kelsey Ballerini. Yeah, that's right. But Kelsey Grammer, I've heard of many times and just never realized that he was an actor. Also, that's crazy that John Mulaney's parents didn't let him star in a movie written by John Hughes and directed by Chris Columbus. That is such a missed opportunity.
Well, this movie there's a lot of missed opportunities when it comes to this movie. So, Warner Brothers had originally set up to make Home Alone, and then John Hughes promised that he could make the movie for less than $10 million, and that's considerably less than most, they said, feature film production budgets of that era. And they said, concerned that the film might exceed that amount, Hughes met secretly with 20th Century Fox before production to see if they could fund the project if Warner proved inflexible. They said, according to the executive producer, a copy of the script was clandestinely delivered to Fox, bypassing the legal restrictions that would have otherwise prevented Fox from seeing it until the project was in turnaround. Early in production, the budget grew to $14.7 million, and Warner demanded that it be cut by $1.2 million. The producers responded with a memo arguing that the budget could not be cut any further. Unconvinced, Warner shut down production the next day, but it quickly resumed when Fox took up Hughes on his offer and even gave them a bigger budget of $18 million. Now, what's crazy is that if Warner Brothers when they saw how well this movie did, they probably shot themselves in the foot.
Yeah.
after that. That's crazy. And no, what's funny? I guess in 1990, $14 million is a lot of money, but today we'd be like, that's a pretty reasonable.
Oh my God, yes, definitely. Budget. Yeah.
And then Daniel Stern was cast as Marv, but before shooting started, he was told that the production schedule had been extended from 6 weeks to 8. He dropped out as he would not be paid more for the extended schedule. Daniel Roebuck was hired to replace him, but after 2 days of rehearsal, Columbus felt he was lacking chemistry with Joe Pesci and brought back Stern. Roebuck later said that although he was upset to be fired from the production, he now believed the experience was a little blip of unimportance. That's what you say when you're really kind of upset and don't want to.
Yeah, that sprinkles some salt on that. Daniel Stern, though, great. Glad, because he is awesome as Marv in this movie.
Yeah, and Joe Pesci didn't play off each other really well.
Yeah.
I mean, like Daniel Stern being the more like zany one, and I don't. And I mean, Joe Pesci, because he had done Lethal Weapon 2 at this point, so that role is like more comedic than like most of the stuff he's known for.
Right.
But I look at it in today's standards where it's like, oh, I'm more familiar with him from Goodfellas and Casino and stuff like that.
Yeah, I don't know much pre-90s Joe Pesci.
Yeah, so him doing comedy like this, like I feel like he probably it seemed like he fed off of Daniel Stern a bit more to like kind of be more comfortable, just to be like kind of silly and have more fun and all that. I know the scene where they have him Kevin like hooked up on the kind of coat hanger thing like at the end of the movie,
like the zip line in the treehouse.
Yeah, it's after that scene,
on it. Yeah.
And they're talking about like biting his fingers. That Joe Pesci had, like again, like there was a lot where they were like, Joe, he's a child, like you can't like, do that to him. But like Daniel Stern and Joe, mostly Daniel Stern has said like they loved working with Macaulay Culkin, but they did play it as like this kid is like now getting on our nerves, and that's how they kind of treated it, so they could make it more believable that they would not want to tolerate being around him because of all the pain he inflicts on them, of course.
And it's quite a bit. It's
funny,
quite a bit. Yeah, these injuries that they would have sustained in real life would have been much more grotesque than they're depicted on screen. Like those buckets of paint on the face. Oh my God, that would just destroy you.
It would. So there is I think I told you there's a horror movie called Better Watch Out where they do it. They do the paint thing in that movie,
nice.
and it does what you would think it would do to a human being rather than just like,
Okay, great.
rather than slapsticky, like just knocking you out and like making you fall down the stairs.
But the physical humor in this movie is actually great. It's something that I remember. I think this is back when I had seen it the last time, because I remember my dad just being in hysterics over particularly Joe Pesci getting injured. He was just laughing so much. That must have been the last time I'd seen it. But I think of that every time, like how good the physical humor is in this movie. All thanks to, I'm guessing it's, well, I don't know. Do you think there's stunt doubles?
I'm sure they had stunt doubles, but like the stuff that they do focus on where you just see their reactions in their faces, that's the stuff that's the funniest. Like Joe Pesci's reaction to when like the flame thing goes on his head, and
I was going to say, how do you think they pull that off? Do you think
I don't even know?
It's got to be real.
Yeah, I mean, well done though.
Very well done. Very ballsy on his behalf. Holy smokes!
By the way, filming took place from February 14th, 1990 to May 8th, 1990, over a course of 83 days.
Okay.
Doesn't it seem like a movie that would take 83 days to film?
No, it really doesn't. No.
Like it. Yeah, that's interesting.
Ridley Scott would have that done in like 12 days.
I know, right?
But
this is interesting too. Cinematographer Julio Macat recalled that Joe Pesci was more difficult to work with than Macaulay Culkin. The older actor believes some of the dialogue was not of a quality of his acting ability. He also resented the early unit calls since they prevented him from starting his day with 9 holes of golf, as he preferred to do. After he took the assistant director by the collar one day to complain about this, daily call times were moved back from 7 to 9 a.m. to accommodate his golf rounds.
He would be golfing 9 holes before 9 a.m. That's a dedicated golfer.
On the other end of the schedule, the crew had limited time to film the many nighttime scenes since Culkin could not work any later than 10 p.m. due to his age.
Oh, even 10 is late.
Yeah, that is late for like
for a 9-year-old. Yeah, geez.
Also, that's a lot. Late. You know, I don't know. Do you know about the stuff that was going on with Macaulay Culkin when he was a kid, like a child actor, and like his parents and all that stuff?
No, I know that there's like drug history later in life, but I don't know if that stems from his. I don't know anything about his childhood life.
So he had like what you would call like stage parents, particularly like a dad that was like very much on set on the time and very demanding. And it wasn't so bad on this, but after this was a hit, and then he did Home Alone 2 and got a big payday for it. His dad controlled a lot of what was done with his son on set, and kind of he became known for all the movies that he did after Home Alone while he was a kid actor.
He did the good son, right? Too.
Yeah. His dad was difficult on that too. He was not. I think eventually that he got emancipated from his parents, like later.
Oh my goodness!
In life. But it was pretty bad, and like it was like in Hollywood circles, they all kind of knew that the Culkin dad in particular was very difficult,
exploitative.
Yeah, and it became very hard to want to employ Macaulay Culkin because of that. And I think eventually Macaulay Culkin rejected wanting to just be an actor at that point because he's like, I never got to be a kid. I want to enjoy myself, and he was working for his family. Like most of there's a whole thing about the stuff with his money and wanting to control his money. Like it's that age old kind of Hollywood story where it has to be hard when you're a kid and then you're the breadwinner for your family.
That's such a dynamic that should not be experienced, right?
Right. So they're controlling your money because you're a minor, but you're making all the money and by being in front of the camera. So he dealt with a lot as a young child actor, and he seems very well adjusted now. He just got his star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame, which was great to kick off December 1st. He got it right, and Catherine O'Hara was there, his movie mom, which I think other than him, is my favorite. I like Joe Pesci and Daniel Stern, but she had some really funny
great
stuff
moments
too. She's dead on. Some of her dialogue delivery is really good. She's hilarious.
You really buy her as the desperate mom just trying to get back to her kid on the holidays, right? She does a great job at pleading with people to try to give her a break to get back home, and her frustration at not being able to get a flight. She's trapped in another continent from him, and that horror she must be feeling as a mother is I buy it from Catherine O'Hara's performance big time.
One thing I want to ask you, if you're watching this from a kid's eyes, like, would you want to be like in a situation where you would be home alone like that as
Oh
a
my
8, 9
God.
year old?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, okay. Different. I take that back a little bit. I was an only child. So even though I wasn't home alone nearly at that age, there was plenty of times where like my parents weren't in my immediate vicinity. I was really allowed to run around, do whatever I wanted. It felt like I
Yeah,
was alone a lot of the times when I wasn't hanging out with friends. So I guess
yeah,
I didn't have that lust for, exploring my own house and being left to my own devices. So I can't relate to that exactly. But if I lived in this lifestyle that he did and had this huge family and just wanted to get away from everybody, I think that would have been awesome. Doing whatever you want to do at that age is every kid's dream, right? He literally does it all.
yeah.
He eats ice cream for
He
breakfast,
eats fucking
watches
egg for
movies he
breakfast.
can't watch.
Yeah,
Like, what more could you want to go tobogganing down the staircase? Like,
yeah,
yeah, he does it all.
yeah. It's true. I mean, it really is like the ultimate
Mm,
kid's fantasy. Like if you were like left to your own
exactly.
devices and you're home by yourself. And I love that he does mostly like child things. Like you said, like he eats
Yeah,
junk in the morning,
yeah,
and stuff like that. He's jumping up and down the bed. Like that's the kind of stuff
right.
you would do when you're that young. He's
Yeah,
running around that house just kind of like screaming and yelling because he can, because no one's gonna like tell him to shut up.
right.
Um, yeah, I mean, like I love that they show like what it would be like for a kid if they were
Hmm.
in
Yeah,
that situation, at least in the early stages of it, like before it
yeah.
gets
It's only a few
before
days, I guess.
before it turns into a home invasion movie. That would happen because that would
Yeah,
happen in real life at all. Family
yeah.
Guy makes fun of that really well, where they're watching. I think they're saying they're watching Home Alone, but like realistic, and he's at the
Oh
top of the
my.
and he's at the top of the stairs, and he's like, "Hey guys, I got a tarantula," and they just shoot him in the head, and he falls down the stairs.
Family Guy's fucked, man.
Yeah.
Uh,
Well, that's likely what would happen in a
yeah, probably.
real life scenario.
I do too. I think it's kind of funny how he like is like putting on this facade and trying to be an adult too, as
Yeah.
equally as he's trying to just be a kid enjoying his time home alone. But like he's going through the daily routine, putting on aftershave on bare skin like that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And we get our little signature Home Alone yell, and
which honestly, like
and what
I've never
became the
found
poster
that
and all
funny.
that.
I've never
Yeah.
that moment. I don't really care for, and we get too many close up Kevin McCallister yells. I don't care
Yeah.
for that. It kind of annoyed me, but that's a nitpick.
The one in front of the van cracks me up because the one when he almost gets hit by the
Sure, yeah, that's a good one.
bandits, because it comes out of nowhere because he's just standing there like
Yeah.
stomping, ah!
That's a
like,
good
yeah,
one.
but I
And-
get what you're saying. It's one of those
but-
things that's like probably iconic, for what it was, and
Yeah,
but yeah, it's not. I don't find it especially funny either. It's just like, oh, look at
no,
that.
I just watched. I'm
moment.
like, okay. Plus, you
Look
get
at that pop culture moment.
the two aftershave. I could see one, but
Yeah.
you get two aftershave screams. You get one close up in the camera when he's running around. What is he running
Yeah.
around from the first time? I can't remember.
Yeah. Wait, is that the one where he's? Oh, is that the one? Oh yeah, he sees Old Man Marley outside.
Yeah,
And then he started, and that's the longest one. I think he just starts screaming and running through the house. Like
he runs down
that
the
was
hallway, screams at the
hallway,
camera, then
leaving
turns
good luck.
around and runs the other way. And it's funny
kind of
too.
funny, I guess.
Yeah, that. And it's right after he's walking out of the house, declaring he's not afraid anymore to the world.
Oh yeah, like
and
yeah,
Marley's
he's
waiting
walking
for
outside,
him.
like
That
that's
is
so great.
some good.
And I
humor.
love like the only reason why that initial one's kind of funny. I mean, it does go on too long, but I love there's like the pause, and then he looks up at him, and he's looking down at him, and there's like just
Yeah.
that pause in between like the scream, and because he's acting so brave before then, and he just like
Right.
runs through the house. Yeah,
Again, that's another great scene showcasing like the filmmaking at hand here, like with the different camera lenses and angles that are depicting Kevin as this. I mean, it even done it again at the church too. Like Kevin is so small
Yeah.
and tiny, and this man is so looming and large.
Yeah.
And another thing that I wanted to mention too is, and this was pointed out to me in a video. Like before I had watched Home Alone again. Like I'm sure I felt like it was quite obvious watching it, but the color schemes in this movie have a lot of subtext to them. Like all of the McCallister household is draped in red. Like the bedspread of the parents, most of Kevin's outfits are red and green, curtains, wallpaper, plates, like you name it. There's so much red in there, and then shades of green too for like the Christmas colors. But his mother too, with the red hair. She also has like a red wardrobe. And then, but as soon as they leave, all of pretty much the airport and the France sequences are blue. It's like very big contrast.
Right.
And I think it's showcasing how far apart they are and how
they are,
drastic their circumstances are different. And I thought that was just really neat, like just good, subtle filmmaking choice to really depict the divide between them and having the colors be such a, it's like Star Wars, I guess, too, right? It's just so obvious, like they're good and bad. But yeah, I really appreciated the color choices too. Reminded me like Stanley Kubrick is big on his colors and his films. But I thought it was just kind of slick.
And kind of like what they like reflect in the scene and what they represent. Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Big time.
And like it's funny because you saying that about how I'm kind of realizing it as you're saying it, the way the camera does, like especially when he is around adult figures, right? Make him seem like he's small, and they want you to see it from a child's eyes. Like I didn't really realize that until you said it, and then just saw the scenes where
you can picture scenes when Frank is in his face saying, "Look what you did, you little jerk," and he's looking down at Kevin, and the camera's it does a good job painting Kevin as
and
what's
interesting too. Kid. Like if you're like the audience for this is going to be mostly kids, so they want kids who are watching it to feel that sense of like that feeling too. And
that's how I remembered it as a kid. I felt very much like Kevin in my youth watching this movie too. I think it did what it set out to do.
I also like that it's completely plausible how they leave him by himself. It works. I mean, they have what's that annoying neighbor kid that comes over to ask all the questions before they leave.
And he gets mistakenly counted by the older. Yes.
Is she a sister or what is it?
I think
she's not.
Oh yeah.
She's on the sequel, and that's probably because she fucked up this first time, and they were like, "You can't go on the family trip anymore," because she is so condescending. Like, did you count everybody? And she's like, "Yeah." Like, she has a whole like.
She goes, like 5 boys, 6 girls, blah 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 blah,
and a partridge in a pear tree.
Yes, which I thought was kind of funny, actually.
But I was like, watching as an adult, because as a kid, you don't care how he ends up by himself because you're like, "Oh,
no, exactly."
But as an adult, I'm like, yeah, it would. That's an easy way to like. They thought they counted him. Now, my mom always says like, I can't imagine a moment where, like, you're my child, and I wouldn't like turn around at some point or like even if we're racing to the airport, that I wouldn't try to like interact with you in some way, because like the kids all. I mean, I know they're sitting in coach while the parents or the adults are in first class,
right?
But like most parents would be like, "Well, make sure like you got on the plane." I guess.
Well, another slick little detail too is when the milk is spilled, you see Kevin's passport, or what you assume is Kevin's passport, which it is, gets thrown out in the garbage mistakenly too. So they're not looking at that too, which is a small. There's a lot of small good details that make this premise as plausible as possible. No one's gonna forget their kid, but if it was gonna happen, that's probably how it's gonna go down.
We're also this movie exists in a pre 9/11 world too, where the airport is very loosey goosey. You can just like you can run through it and board super late. You can I guess exchange, like when she's talking to that old couple and she's offering like $500 or the lady $500 and her earrings to like trade basically spots. I was like that's
never gonna happen.
Not like whatever.
Yeah,
but it's a Christmas movie and it's 1990. I guess it could have happened then, but like the stuff that goes on in that movie, it's like, another thing too is the amount all the groceries that he buys is only $19.03.
Funny that you mentioned that, because that was one of the big takeaways I had. He buys and
it's expensive stuff. It was like milk and detergent. And that in itself is expensive now. I don't know how much it was in 1990.
Right.
But
I was like, God damn.
I feel like I feel like 2 of those things like today would be like almost $19.
Yeah, like, exactly. Certainly that order that he gets would be like $40.
And honestly, that is one of my favorite scenes that he has as an actor in the movie, where he's going back and forth with the cashier.
The cashier,
And
he holds his own
because it's also realistic, and because he's just kind of like, she's asking him all these questions, like kind of like, where's your mom? She's in the car. Where's your dad? Like, he's working.
He's got his answers all lined
for
up,
everything.
Right?
I like how he has his coupon ready for the orange juice. Like, he's like, And then I love when she's like, where do you live? And he's like, I can't tell you that. And she's like, why not? She's like, because you're a stranger. The delivery's so good.
He is
Yeah,
a clever, witty kid.
yeah. And I also that like he also shoplifts, but it's because he got scared. He steals a
Yeah,
toothbrush.
I don't even count that, right? Yeah.
And then he's like, and then he even acknowledges like I'm a criminal, which is why he's so
Yeah.
like.
That is actually probably one of the better lines in the movie. He's like so down on his luck. You just think like,
Yeah,
his
he's
world
so
is over, and he goes,
despondent.
I'm a criminal.
Yeah, and then when you think about what he's gonna do later in the movie, it's like, well, dude. I mean, I guess you had a right to protect your home, but like you're
Yeah.
also committing almost like attempted murder. But they're breaking into your spot, so I guess
Yeah.
it's fair.
I think one of my favorite moments is the when he does it, the pizza delivery guy with the spoof movie that he's playing on the inside with the audio.
Yeah. So like
Hilarious.
for years I thought that was a real movie growing up.
I
And we
can't
were
blame you
always
for that.
we were like trying to find what it was. I was late in the game and I was like, that's not a real movie. Like
Yeah.
no, they just made it
I
up
think
for
it's a
the
spoof on Angels with Dirty
faces.
Right.
Yeah,
Which I don't
it's
know
called
who
Angels
did
with Filthy
that.
Souls.
Right.
But I do, and they do it, and this is a gag. Even though I love Home Alone 2, but I will say that like it does repeat a lot of stuff from Home Alone 1. And
right.
It's
Well,
kind of
winning formula in the first.
It's kind of lazy, but like it's a gag that works 2 times, and I think it almost works better in the second one when he does it in the hotel room in Home Alone 2.
Is it the same
like
movie?
Yeah, it's a different. They're making fun of it. But it's a different scene though, and he does the same thing with like the pausing and the rewriting to like get the hotel staff out of his hotel room, and it's.
Oh, I recall that now. Yeah, is it
Tim Curry
McGavin that plays the? Oh, Tim Curry. Tim Curry.
Tim Curry. Right. And then Rob Schneider is one of the other bus and it's just Tim Curry's so great in that scene because it's so dramatic because they're all crawling on the ground thinking they're getting shot at, and they're just like everyone stay in your rooms, like there's a maniac with a gun, and like it's a good gag, and it works really, and they use it twice in the first one too. Like they do it with the pizza delivery guy, and then with Daniel Stern. I love when he comes back to tell Joe Pesci about what was going on in the house, and like he's really just like. He thinks all that went down in the home. He says one of his things was snakes. He's like, "Do I know a snake?" And then like Joe Pesci's like, "Snakes? I don't know a snake." Like that was great.
Yeah.
What do you think about Kevin's ability to kind of fake that some people are home? It's very elaborate.
Very elaborate. Very clever.
I had much intelligence as that age. Like,
I like that you don't see what he's doing until after you see the the shadows and the silhouettes from Marv and Harry's perspective, and then you're like, what? How? Like you can tell, like some of these people are moving in the same motion, but like what is going on? And then you see him shaking the ropes that are like kind of like ventriloquist style on all his little cardboard cutouts and stuff, and it's like that is pretty funny. He's a very prepared kid. Prepared.
And great use of Rocking Around the Christmas Tree, which I guess finally went to #1 after they said 65 years.
Oh, because of this movie.
It gets a lot of play because of this movie, and then it also, I guess they said since 2019 has been like kind of biting at the bit under Mariah Carey's "All I Want for Christmas Is You," and it finally went to #1 last week. And I guess Brenda Lee performed that song when she was 13 years old. And so but they said Home Alone is a big reason why the song is so popular. And it's crazy because there's a bunch of Christmas songs in Home Alone.
Yeah, totally.
That one's I guess stands out the most for a lot of people. But yeah, it's a good tune. It's a good tune for sure. I do love how he's able to put all that together. And you don't really question how he does it. I mean, it's so elaborate that it would take a lot of time. It would take a lot of time to do.
I like that we don't really see him prepping it, right?
Yeah. Like, I mean, all the prep we need to see is what he does later when he preps the house for booby traps. Or like, I forgot one of my buddies said that. Yeah, this is a very fun movie. It's very cute, but we need to acknowledge that Kevin is probably like a future like serial killer,
psychopath.
Psychopath.
What's the worst trap for Harry and Marv? Do you think? Like, what's the one that you do not want to go through? I mean, there's so many bad ones. Those boys get.
There's so many bad ones.
There's one that cringes me out in particular that I.
There's always the little things that get me the most. It's the one where he steps on the nail.
The nail. That's what I was thinking.
Throws me. And also even the little ones where when he climbs to the window and immediately just steps his bare feet on the ornaments.
How do you think they got around that? Because like you're clearly, is it just like breakaway glass, like sugar glass?
I'm assuming it's breakaway glass because like I mean,
it looks so real.
Now Kevin would have to also. I mean, if you think about it too hard, they're like, well, Kevin would have to know that he would climb in barefoot for that trap to work.
I suppose, but what did he put down that Marv lost his shoes on? There's that sticky substance that he puts, right?
I forgot. I forgot what it was that he. Yeah, but I know what you're talking about. I forgot what it was exactly though.
Things do go really, really well for him though, until they don't.
Yeah. It's so funny when he steps on that nail and he just that whole fall back, like it's just like a straight like fall from like the step when he steps on the nail. Like
that is very, very funny. Oh, I'm thinking too the Christmas ornaments under the window. It also could have been like a noise indicator, let alone instead of just
to let him know that he was coming out. Well,
it could be a double. It could be a double sided trap there. I think not curling iron, but clothes iron. I don't know if that has another name. I'm blanking here, but that one coming down the laundry chute onto Marv's face.
And you just hear like the sound effect of the like it's see how fast it's coming down. They would all be dead, by the way.
So many of those things would have like absolutely killed them.
Yeah, like completely killed them. I mean, it's even worse than the second one when they're throwing like when he's throwing the bricks down at them and they're getting.
That's right.
Well, it's not so much Harry. It's Marv that's getting nailed with the bricks. But like,
I forgot about that. Oh my goodness,
ridiculous! And then I do love the use of the tarantula.
Glad you brought that up.
Because that's also really funny too.
That was the scene that actually got the biggest laugh out of me is Marv's scream. When it's so real and he sounds like a shrill woman, like he's so afraid. And I just saw this on IMDb right before we started recording, and I never would have known this otherwise. But I guess he had to mime that scream so not to freak out the tarantula, because if he had a scream,
it would bite him.
Or I wouldn't want that. I commend Daniel Stern. There's not a fucking chance that tarantula. Let alone, I'm not even letting that thing out of its tank when I'm in the room. Like, I'm not a spider guy, but to have that on him, on his body, like that is quite impressive. And to have it on his face, anyway, that scream that I'm guessing like he mimes it and then they just dub his actual scream over it in post, but hilarious. That scene.
It's just funny how many of those gags they end up using in the second one, because that's his scream. He does that again where he's getting attacked by the pigeons when the pigeon lady like throws the bird seed all over them, and I'm assuming the pigeons are just like pecking at them, and he like it's just like the pigeons they move away. You just see his face, and he just raises up and does that blood curdling scream again. Like it's, but like you said, I guess if it's not broke, don't fix it. So I guess you can keep using the.
But you can't get away with more than that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah, not at all. And I love when he's like the tarantula's like on his he has a crowbar and he's like telling him not to move because he's just
don't move, Marv. Yeah. Like,
don't move, Marv.
Harry. Yeah.
Harry. Yeah. He just thwacks him. He's like, yeah.
No, is it Marv hitting Harry or is it Harry hitting Marv with it?
I think
it's Marv hitting Harry.
Harry. Yeah.
And then Harry gets it back and hits him because how do you like it?
Yeah. How do you like it? And he just does the whole like the whole miming noise again. Yeah. It's so good. The movie's so funny. Like it's funny how like it just holds up really well. And I don't know if it's because like we're like almost feel weird laughing at like in violence like this, but it is so like over the top that it's like what I mean, it's most of it is what a child would do, right? Like putting the ornaments down, putting the little cars down, so like when they run through the living room, they'll like slip on them. Like it is mostly stuff a kid would do. I would even know how to do the whole paint can thing as a child. Like I don't even know how.
That's pretty elaborate.
How he thought to rig that up.
The tripwire is pretty good too.
Yeah.
Had it all well thought.
The blowtorch. Like
that is a little bit unbelievable.
Yeah, there's a lot of it that's just like
I'm wondering what it is he puts on the door handle to get the searing doorknob. And how Joe
to
Pesci
make
misses
it
that.
to heat it up. I know.
Yeah. You can see it clearly
Also,
glowing from the outside.
they are desperate to break into this house because at a certain point, because like they are hurt a lot before they even get in. And I just be at that point, I'm like, dude, it's not worth it.
I'm giving
Like,
up.
let's give up. Like, clearly we're not meant to go in this house.
But then again, like I guess like the temptation's real because they know the family's not there. They know all these valuables are
And
in
it's
there.
just a
They can
child.
assume like how hard can it be? And I guess like the more hurt they get, the more motivated they probably are to get in. But I agree. After stepping on that nail, I'm calling her quits. And that's after taking the iron to the face, isn't it? Like, poor Marv. Yeah,
done. I mentioned some of this earlier, but they said on set it was Pesci and Stern both had difficulty refraining from cursing, which became annoying to Pesci since Culkin was on set as well. They said, in fact, the only curse words that made it into the film were "shit," accidentally said by Daniel Stern when his shoe fell through the pet door, and "hell," which was said by both Pesci and Stern after their characters encounter one another after going through Kevin's booby traps, and by Johnny to the character of snakes and angels with filthy souls.
Right.
Pesci's use of cartoon cursing or menacing gibberish garnered comparisons to Looney Tunes character Yosemite Sam. And
that's funny.
And then in terms of the stunts, they said the Columbus said every time the stunt guys did one of the stunts, it wasn't funny. We watch it and it would just pray that the guys were alive. Stunts were originally prepared with safety harnesses, but because of their visibility on camera, the film's final stunts were performed without them. Troy Brown and Leon Delaney were stuntmen for Pesci and Stern, respectively. An injury had occurred between Pesci and Culkin during one of the rehearsals for the scene in which Harry tries to bite off Kevin's finger. Culkin still has the scar on his finger from the bite.
Oh, he actually, wow.
Okay. Yeah. This is because he's probably like, I'm a real actor. And like,
that's true.
And then they said, one of the most difficult scenes to shoot was the family's run through O'Hare International Airport to catch their flight. While it does not last long, it required several days to film. There were thousands of extras, all expertly choreographed, so none of us would be in danger running at full speed through the American Airlines terminal. And we ran at full speed. Sometimes we bump into each other like a multi-car pileup on the expressway and just crack up laughing. There were so many setups and narrowly missed moments of disaster, but to my knowledge, no one got hurt.
Okay, I don't feel like I wouldn't have expected that would be that difficult to film, like them running through the airport. It's funny that it's like multiple days
to do that. Yeah, like, and it's just like we talk about that on here a lot about organized chaos in certain scenes. That seems like that feels like that would be easy to do, but I guess they have to make it look pretty realistic that they would be in a rush running through the airport. And again, something you couldn't do today. Not
definitely
like that.
Not. No,
they would like
not
stop you
outside of a movie set.
Yeah. What the hell are you? What the hell are you doing? Do you like what ends up becoming the story for the older guy? Like his family, he has to talk to him, and like then Kevin has that whole conversation with him at the church, and again, it seems like Kevin's probably better at talking to adults than other children.
Yeah, we hardly even see him interact with other kids. I think it's a really heartwarming part of the story too, and I especially love that we go from being afraid, if you will, of old man Marley to sort of like realizing he's just like a human. He's got his own problems, just like anybody else. He's nothing really to be feared, and in fact, it's actually very sweet old man, very different than his role in Christine as LeBay there, eh?
I know, right? Right, yeah, completely different. That's why I think most of that was in Kevin's head, like the whole like being afraid of him, like, or maybe maybe he wasn't always looking menacing at him. Like I think it's just like the furnace thing, and like because when he approaches him at the church, like he kind of is like afraid for like a second, and then at this point he's not anymore, and then they just have this. Kevin has a really adult conversation with him that most kids that age would not have with adults, but
certainly,
but you buy it just because.
I guess kids don't got that John Hughes writing behind their dialogue. But I thought it was.
I also think it's funny that throughout this entire experience, Home Alone and Home Alone 2, they don't know anything that Kevin goes through. The parents of the family at all. Right. Like I just love that I love that there's this disconnect between what the family is going through when they're away from him and what Kevin is going through on his own. And it's like there's two different movies happening. And
totally,
they don't really converge until the mom comes back home after a very long journey getting back home.
Yeah.
But I just think it's funny that he goes through this whole ordeal and that no one knows about it, like at all.
True, and you feel
whatsoever.
like throughout the course of the movie, you feel like the house is more or less getting destroyed.
But yeah,
obvious.
That's true. They come back to I guess
Pretty
he
neat.
stayed up all night and like I don't know.
I guess except for Buzz's room, because it ends with Buzz being like, Kevin, what'd you do to my room? Which is hilarious. And then I'm pretty sure it ends right there.
Yeah.
He must have done some serious cleanup, because he's like, he's stomping through the house with his like snowy boots on, stomping on his parents' bed, like all the traps set around the house, the feathers. Think of the disaster that was.
The feather thing is hilarious.
Why are you dressed like a chicken?
Why are you dressed like a chicken?
That was awesome.
But yeah, I think it's funny that they never know that, like at all, that there was a home invasion robbery at their house.
I know. There's another small detail about their travel home that I really think is a good moment for Kevin's mother, who I don't even know. Was her name mentioned?
What
is her name? Or I guess I'm on IMDb. I don't know why I don't just look at it.
No, her name is Kate.
Kate, yes. Yeah. So it's funny. She gets home to Kevin literally mere seconds before the rest of the family piles through the door, and she's like, how did you guys get home? And the dad goes like, we took the flight the next morning, the one you didn't want to wait for. So it's funny that although they get home at the same time, she's still going through this constant journey of getting home to him and not stopping anywhere. And meanwhile, like the rest of the family just probably have a relaxing night, catch up on some sleep, and take the morning flight, but she just can't cope with that and has to be continuously returning to him. I think that's such a motherly way of approaching the story.
Yeah, and I actually think that's probably cool that they do it that way.
I agree too.
That's like, because it is such a movie thing that the rest of the family arrives soon after she does.
Yeah.
But I guess that's just to show how her desperation of wanting to get home to her son, and like kind of the kind of stakes she goes through.
Right.
Even hanging out with a polka loving John Candy, who's only paid $414 to do that.
Definitely a favor role to John. We'll probably add John Hughes. I'm guessing.
He was only available for one day to film his scenes, and they took 23 hours to shoot. He was paid only $414 since he did the film as a favor to Hughes. He said in return, he was the only actor Hughes allowed to go off script, according to Columbus. All his dialogue was improvised.
I did not know half of what he was saying. I don't know what polka means.
It's like a type of music, right?
I guess yeah.
And I just Catherine O'Hara's just like listening to it. What's funny because she's super funny too. Like she could improv with the best of them if she wanted to. Because like I loved her on Schitt's Creek when she was on that show, and like she's hilarious. But I think it's funny that you have all these like kind of natural comedians, and they were like, "Yeah, only you can improv, and no one else can go off script."
Maybe because they worked together before. Who knows?
Yeah, that's cool. That 23 hours to film like one scene, only at 404. That's such a weird exact number too, like $414.
Yeah, well, how do you arrive at that?
That's crazy. Yeah,
I mean, good haul for one day of work. I mean, a full day, but it's not too bad.
Yeah, not too bad at all. You already said that your favorite trap was the nail thing, right? That was the one that bothered you the most.
It's the one that bothers me the most for sure. I think the spider scene is like my favorite of them all because it gets the biggest laugh out of me. I guess I don't know. It's more of a moment of convenience more so than a trap, but it has the same effect. It slows them both down, which is the point.
Yeah. I do love when they're going across the he ziplined over and then he just sets the rope on fire, which is like or starts to cut it and like just starts to cut it off. Yeah. I'm thinking it's Home Alone 2 where he sets the rope on fire. Sorry, like it's just
that is awesome.
That's already hilarious. And I guess I would be pretty pissed off at him too. As a child, you're like nothing's going to happen, but as an adult, like they were going to kill him.
Probably.
I mean, that is what was going to happen to him at the end of that. I mean, he planned everything out. I mean, I'm glad that Old Man Marley knew what was going on, I guess.
Certainly he was paying attention.
Like either he's paying attention or Kevin, I don't know if no, he didn't have time to tell him anything.
No,
he leaves like he does. So I guess he just, that's why I asked if he was homeless, because he was like skulking around just
right. I think he just looked over at the right time.
Yeah, it's a good way to kind of
Mm-hmm.
save the day. There's like, I think those are the only two things he doesn't plan for, because he doesn't know the spider thing is going to happen. That like when they're grabbing him by the leg, that's just a moment of like convenience
Pure
of the
luck.
spiders
Yeah,
there.
yeah.
And then the old man saving him at the end, and then he's like,
Which
"Oh
is-
yeah, let's get you home."
It's funny how he uses the shovel, because that was what was teased as his murder weapon earlier in the movie.
Yeah,
That's what Buzz or one of the cousins are saying he got away with his murders with, and then it ends up being the thing that he uses to lay the beat down on Marv and Harry, which is kind of funny.
And the cops don't do much to investigate.
Cops suck in this movie, yeah.
To investigate, like, yeah, you caught them, but like they are clearly severely injured. How did this happen?
Yeah,
I'm sure one of them would have been like, "Yo, the kid next door did this," and they would have gone over. I love, like, thinking about the real life implications. Like, they would have to like talk to him, right? interrogate Kevin, especially since, and they would like, he lives next door, so they would go, "Did you guys hear anything?"
Canvas the area a little bit.
Yeah. That's hilarious.
But when they do finally are able to get one police officer to go over and check out the house, he like tries to open the door and then is like, "Yeah, well, it looks secure to me. I don't see anybody. No one's home." It's like that.
Oh yeah, and he's like, and then he just like, "Tell them to count the kids again." He just leaves.
Yeah, big help.
But
I guess you can't have two competent officers, or else you probably wouldn't have the movie that you have. So,
yeah, that's true. Yeah, there'd be no movie if like the adults were smart
and doing their jobs. Yeah, exactly.
and doing their jobs.
Yeah,
like there has to be a suspension of disbelief that this kid could actually. Yeah, but I mean, I think that Macaulay Culkin overall sells it. Like, you believe, even though you are suspending your disbelief that this is all a fantasy, but like you believe that like Kevin would be that intuitive and that resourceful, and I buy it. I mean,
me too.
It is for what it is. And I wouldn't be remiss not to mention John Williams' score, which is also really good. It's very like very Christmassy in all the right spots.
Definitely.
The opening Home Alone song is probably pretty memorable as far as movie theme music. And then Somewhere in My Memory is also a big, the song they play it towards the end of the movie is also pretty well known too.
I'm looking to see if he got any significant awards.
I think he got an Oscar nomination. Yep.
Nominated for two.
Yeah. Best original score and best original song.
Nice.
Yep. And this was more of a huge box office film. They said Home Alone was the #1 film at the box office for 12 consecutive weeks from its release weekend of November 16th through the 18th, 1990, through the weekend of February 1st to the 3rd, 1991. It was removed from the top spot when Sleeping with the Enemy opened with $13 million. It remained in the top 10 until the weekend of April 26th, well past Easter weekend. It made 2 more appearances in the top 10, the weekend of May 31st through June 2nd, and the weekend of June 14th through the 16th, before finally falling out of the top 10. After over 9 months into its run, the film had earned 16 times its debut weekend, which was $17 million. And ended up making a final gross in the States of $285.7 million, and then worldwide $476 million. The film is listed in the Guinness World Records as the highest grossing live action comedy ever, and it held that record until The Hangover Part 2 was released in 2011. That is crazy.
Yeah, very impressive overall.
Yeah. By the time the film had run its course in theaters, Home Alone was the 3rd highest grossing film of all time worldwide in 1990 or 91, as well as in the United States and Canada, behind Star Wars at the time and E.T. the Extraterrestrial at the time. Box Office Mojo estimates that the film sold over 67.7 million tickets in the United States. It was also the highest grossing Christmas film until it was surpassed by Dr. Seuss's The Grinch in 2018. So yeah, that's crazy. 65%. Yeah, 65% on Rotten Tomatoes, so it's fresh, but not as fresh as that you would think, considering how much people love the movie.
Yeah, I know that's definitely not as high as I would pitch it at. But
yeah, it has an A cinema score. Entertainment Weekly gave it a D, criticizing the film for a sadistic festival of adult bashing. And the reviewer said that John Hughes is pulling our strings as though he never learned to do anything else. Jesus. Roger Ebert gave the movie 2.5 out of 4 stars. He compared the elaborate booby traps in the film to Rube Goldberg machines writing there, the kinds of traps that any 8-year-old could devise if he had a budget of tens of thousands of dollars and the assistance of a crew of movie special effects people. And he criticized the plot as so implausible that it makes it hard for him to really care about the plight of the kid Kevin. However, he praised Culkin's performance.
Okay. Jeez, I think.
See, I would think a bunch of old fuddy-duddy critics wouldn't like the movie, though.
I guess, but like, what are you really like? Who cares if the plot is implausible? That's like half the point of entertainment.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
I just find that such a silly criticism. Like, yeah, of course this wouldn't happen, but that's part of escapism.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Home Alone remains a highly popular Christmas movie in Poland, where it is played on Polsat every Christmas Eve. In 2010, Polsat did not play Home Alone, which caused over 90,000 people to protest on Facebook.
Oh my god!
In 2017,
last time that happens.
I know. In 2017, over 4.4 million Poles tuned into Polsat to watch Home Alone. Since the 2010s, its TV trailers even include a tagline that acknowledges his popularity: "Christmas without him, it's absolutely impossible." That's
wholesome.
Crazy too. That's wholesome. Yeah.
Quite the legacy for your movie too.
Yeah. And and it's like they said, it's praised for its quotable phrases, morals, traps, and main character, and it's deemed a Christmas classic by and they said like people who reviewed it in the years since its release. Like I wonder what makes people want to reevaluate movies, because they actually said some people who reviewed it in 1990 re-examined it again and actually liked it more now than they did in 1990.
Interesting. Yeah, I'm curious too what compels people to do that, but I mean, for your own records, maybe like I like to go back and look at movies that I've once reviewed and rated and see how they hold up. But like critically, like as when it's your job, I don't know. There's something about like how you feel about some coming out of something when you see it for the first time that is like timeless, that shouldn't really be manipulated. But we were discussing that in our previous episode there. But
yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's such a big classic for a lot of people, I think, and a staple of their childhood. And I think what I think is cool about it is that it can be passed on to so many different, like down the line, like I think,
generations
like, no matter,
and whatnot.
Yeah, I think there's a timeless quality to it where
definitely,
other than how much things cost, $19.03 for groceries,
that'll age or date it, yeah, for sure.
Date it, yeah, but it doesn't feel like certain movies are a product of its time, but this one kind of feels like it could have easily been released yesterday. Like just the feel of it and the overall,
right?
Like, the sense.
I'd be curious to know like how many kids today have seen this movie, if they still find it relatable, or if like they could be bothered to put their phones down or tablets down to watch it, or you know what I mean?
I know. I mean, I think there's something that about Kevin as a kid in this movie, personality wise, that probably transcends kind of years and generations, where like there are a lot of kids like him like today, and it might be easier for them to watch it and enjoy it, and and especially once they get to all the slapstick violence, they probably really enjoy watching it.
Certainly, it's hilarious.
And by the way, Culkin was paid $4.5 million to appear in the sequel, compared to the $110,000 that he was paid for the original, because he was wasn't a big star when he made the first movie,
right? And then it made all that money that it did. Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah, and then Home Alone 2 has a 35% on Rotten Tomatoes compared to the 65% of Home Alone.
Wow, I guess.
I mean, it's the same movie.
Same movie. Like, I guess that kind of wore off on people, and they wanted maybe something different, or I don't know. Maybe it was. This seems like an earlier example of a movie that did well financially, and then that justified the sequel. Probably wasn't necessary.
Yeah, and I don't think anyone saw it coming the way, like, for a movie to even then to leg it out like that, like 12 weeks to number one, and then to play in theaters as long as it did, like it's it played well through the holiday season into the next year. It was in the top 10 until like May of next year. That's crazy. Yeah, that's a long stretch.
Get behind a legacy sequel where Kevin's grown up and his kid gets left behind.
And gets lost. Yeah, I might be down for that.
Yeah, depending on how it goes, because there was a really terrible remake or sequel done in the last couple of years, wasn't there?
Yeah, well, we had Home Alone 3 in 1997. It's not a Christmas movie, and no one from the original is in it.
Right.
Strange.
Strange.
And the kid is actually defending his home from a band of international criminals. I think they're terrorists. It's a terrorist organization in that
Jesus.
one.
What?
But John Hughes did write the screenplay for it. So
He did. He did write it. Oh,
for Home Alone 3, yeah. And then Home Alone 4, Taking Back the House, came out in 2002. I don't know any of these beyond Home Alone 3. I have seen Home Alone 3. And then there was a fifth film, The Holiday Heist, that was on ABC Family. And then they did a Disney Plus movie in 2021 called Home Sweet Home Alone.
That's what I'm thinking of.
And the guy who played Buzz actually reprised his role in that film. I don't know anything about the latter sequels after 3, though. Probably for the best.
Oh my gosh, Scarlett Johansson is in Home Alone 3.
I think it might be one of her first movies.
Holy. Yeah, that looks scary. I'm not, I would never watch that.
It looks scary.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can't believe John Hughes wrote that.
$79.1 million that movie made on a $32 million budget compared to how massive the other movies were.
Okay.
That's a bold move to try to make a sequel without the main ingredient that made that one work. And I'm not even talking about just Joe Pesci and Daniel. So like the main ingredient is the kid. It's Macaulay Culkin. Yeah. And I guess you could think, I guess the idea is like, oh, we'll find a new kid and he can kind of take the mantle. But no, sorry, Alex D. Linz, that did not happen for you.
No.
He was in Max Keeble's Big Move, though. I do remember that.
Oh, I remember that movie too. Yeah. Oh my gosh, that was a huge family channel.
Hilarious. Yeah, I do remember that. All right. So, any final thoughts on?
Just ready to rate it. Like, I enjoyed this quite a lot, even more than I thought. I mean, like in terms of filmmaking, like I think this is one that I'm rating based on my like enjoyment of it more than like how I think it holds up as a film. Although I do think there's a timeless quality to it, and there is great writing and filmmaking and just like movie making dynamics in this movie. But I think I like it more than it is good as a movie, if you will. But I'd put it like probably an 8. Like I thought it was a lot of fun, charming, funny, and all the right moments, like timeless. Like I'll revisit it. I'm sure this will be a movie I'll watch several more times around the holidays throughout my life. Yeah. What about yourself?
I'd probably give it 8.5.
Okay,
nice. It's super entertaining. It never fails to entertain me. It moves pretty quick too. It's like doesn't overstay its welcome.
No, that's a great point.
And it has like so many different pieces that are working together too. Like there's so like I said, it almost feels like there's multiple movies going on within the one movie, because you just have like the stuff with him being home alone. You have the stuff with the mom trying to get back home, like, and then even like the two robbers have their own little thing before they converge with him. So like, yeah, it feels like there's a lot little pieces going on at the same time, and they all really work. And I think it's a combination of Chris Columbus' direction and John Hughes' writing. Like they knew exactly what the movie was.
Yeah.
And they knew it was like kind of like a cartoon, but they also knew that it had like heart in like all the right places as well. So I think that's pretty important as well.
Definitely.
But yeah.
If I'm nitpicking, I'd say I take away a point or two for the overabundance of Kevin McCallister screams. But that's really my only complaint.
got docked 2 points for too many screams.
Next year though, I got to check out Home Alone 2. I think it's been too long, but I remember some good funny sequences that you brought up during this that makes me want to watch it.
Yeah, and also I will say Home Alone 2, I watched it. I went to New York 3-4 years ago, I think, and watched it with a friend in New York. It hits differently in New York when you're actually there.
I guess there watching this year. Yeah.
And then because like we had gone to like a lot of these places that are in the movie, and so like it's a trip just watching it in that environment, because like I don't think anywhere there are a lot of places that feel the Christmas spirit more than New York, I guess, because it's hard to get that here. We try to duplicate it in LA, and it's not, it's hard to do that when it's like 80 degrees on December 10th. So like, so it's hard to get that, but I love the holiday season out there. So Definitely hits different. But yeah, I mean, but you don't really watch a lot of Christmas movies, but like, would this be like tops?
Yeah, oh, for sure. I mean, I've never really done a definitive ranking of my favorite Christmas movies because I've never sat down long enough to think about them, but I'd put this up there. I also just need to see a lot more to make a definitive list, but like I still am skewing Gremlins in terms of like that movie's just more for me, but this is up there for at least in terms of like your standard Christmas movies. This would be high for sure.
Yeah. All right, I agree. All right, man. Well, why don't you sign us
off? Yeah, so I
Yeah.
think we still got a couple more traditional Bingemas movies to cover, but this has been another great addition to our mini series this month of December, and that makes episode 138 of Back to the Blockbuster. Another great episode, and looking forward to what we have coming to you guys for the rest of the month. Thank you guys for listening and joining us on this adventure and talking about Home Alone with us. Stay tuned for us on social media and wherever you guys get your podcasts at Back to the Blockbuster, as we are slowly getting towards 2024 and we got a lot of stuff planned, and we will be revealing a little bit more of what we have in store for you guys on socials and of course within our episodes too. We are both very excited. And of course, Gaius, thanks a lot for chatting movies again with me, and looking forward to our next episode next Thursday. You guys take care of yourselves.
Peace.